So hi, my name's Andrew Rudd. I am a filmmaker who screened a film at Salute Your Shorts a couple of years ago, and they reached out to filmmakers and said, hey, will you be a proxy for our audience since we have this weird COVID-19 situation, and just come up with all the questions that any audience would like to ask these filmmakers. And this is a great gig for me because I get to watch a bunch of great films, and one of them is yours. Kevin Staake is here talking about his film Dioramas. Thanks for coming and talking to me.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me.
I was drawn in right at the beginning because I've always loved dioramas, but I just like dioramas that don't have the D-I-E at the beginning. I didn't see it coming, even though I should have maybe figured it out. How did you find out about this artist and her work? What drew you to this story?
Yeah, my brother in New York, in Brooklyn, I was like over at his apartment helping with something, I don't know what it was, or just stopping by, and I saw one of her circular ones that mount on the wall. I was just going down the stairs and just passed it and sort of like stopped and looked at it and thought it was like a woman cutting her husband in half with a lawnmower. And I just thought, like, well, I just asked him, like, what the hell is this, and where did it come from? It just sparks so much curiosity. Like, everyone, when they first see it, they just have to know, like, well, how did this come to be? Whose mind did this come from? And I'd asked him, and he had gone to like a gallery opening of hers in New York. A friend of a friend knew her. They got talking, and he said that she's actually a public defender, and I realized, like, oh, that's like working in like true crimes and stuff. And I thought, I wonder if she works in like homicide or stuff like remotely relating to the content that she creates. And I got in touch with her and asked her a bit about it, and was just like, oh my God, this is perfect. Like, just this parallel of like her work, you know, her day job and her night job. And yeah, and I just kind of a little sick myself, you know, into dark stuff. So like, yeah, that's sort of how it started.
That's great. And I really love like the way that you told the story, where we sort of start at the very microscopic and then gradually like we find out about all these people that inhabit her lives, and the way that you treat the people, you kind of like treat them as individual little case studies, and just have a sense of how darkness. How did you decide? And then you eventually make your way to some of the collectors that have worked to get her stuff. And fans even. How did you sort of like find your way through the material in order to know that this was the assemblage you put together?
Yeah, I mean, initially, we just knew it was going to be Abigail and going to Bellingham to Washington and shooting her, ideally working on these things and shooting the completed ones. And that's sort of all we had at first. And in talking to her more and more, like on the phone or via email, she would just mention, you know, like she was staying with her parents at the time, and it was like, oh, that'd be a great angle. And you know, her husband she met at a crime scene, and she's got a little girl, and like, you know, although her little girl can't talk yet, it's fun to sort of like imagine what she might think when she gets old enough. And she just started mentioning other characters, like, actually I work with this police officer who's like, you know, really into the work as well. And I talked to him on the phone. He's like, oh, I got this great gun, I can show you, it's actually like much bigger. And I was just seeing all these things. I was like, oh wow, these little characters are starting coming together. And the characters and the multiple points of view and little snippets of different people in her life just really came through in pre-production. I didn't know we were going to have that. I thought maybe we'd have like a couple of close family members. But yeah, like getting her coworkers and everything. And then she, of course, mentioned pretty early on, we knew we wanted to get the collectors, like the end place where these things end up, and who needs these things, like who's going out and like dropping, which are now some pretty healthy prices to get these things and put them in their home, prominently placed. So yeah, then by the end, I mean, we had like, I think 12 people on camera, and yeah, lots of different points of view. Yeah, just kind of came together as it went.
So did you start the project knowing that you were going to be working with Topic, who's kind of a distributor for the piece, or did that happen during the process?
That was, we had been in touch with them previously, and can't remember what it was for, but I just put this pitch together and kind of was pretty confident. I was a first-time director. I had no credits, and thought that's probably going to be the first question on the phone call. If I ever get a call with anyone who can commission this thing, they're probably going to be like, "Well, what have you done lately?" or "What have you done?" Period. And I'm still grateful that that question never came up, because I would have completely blown it and told them the truth, which is I've done nothing. But I was pretty confident in our production company and in myself, although this was the first time, and definitely in Abigail and her work, that like people want, I'm pretty much could guarantee people want to see this. Abigail has this pre-established, very loyal fan base, and so just put the pitch deck together and went out to a couple places, and topics seemed from the start like kind of perfect for it, and they totally understood like what was compelling about it, and they, you know, we all got to sort of like nerd out a bit on the first call, and you could tell everyone's got a little bit of a screw loose, which is good. So and yeah, they were super supportive, but not like crazy over the shoulder during it. So like they, you know, they helped us where we needed help, and they stepped back and let us do our thing, which was great.
So congratulations. I mean, you've gotten into some great festivals. Have you gotten a lot of feedback from people about the film? What do people sort of pay attention to, or what are they sort of responding to?
Yeah, it's definitely there's definitely a spectrum of some people like it, you know, they latch onto the content of it and the grittiness and the gore, and they're really into that, and they talk a lot about that. Or you know the miniatures, like some people just like are so into miniatures and like train sets and just micro type stuff, and some people really just like it for, I mean, thought, and hopefully, you know, that it's great filmmaking, or you know, cinematically it was very compelling. I guess when it shows some family members, you know, I have like a lot of Midwest family members. Maybe they don't get exposed to some of these more edgier, like fringe type things.
Right.
And, you know, it can be stuff like just like, that is just really sick, or like, you know, a little bit confused, I guess, like why someone's doing this and why I would want to shine a light on it.
Right.
But I think that's the best part. And it's always fun. I get to start going through comments and seeing who's praising it and who's damning it, and yeah, fun to start that long journey of thinking too much about comments.
Well, I do think that one of the great moments in the film is when we figure out that it's her parents talking about her, and kind of like all the feedback that they've received from people, like, how did you create this monster? Even though she's not a monster, obviously she's an incredible artist. It's so thoughtful. And I didn't even think about the fact that like your parents too, or your family also would be having these kinds of reactions. This is a very accomplished piece of work. As a first filmmaker, I sort of was searching the web to see what else she had made, and I couldn't find stuff.
Yeah.
Like your visual approach to the subject matter was very, I think sophisticated, both in terms of the way that you blended the scenery in Bellingham, Washington, with that thematic kind of look. We had this sense that, wait, is this just another miniature? I love that.
Yeah.
I love the way that you kind of shot locked down camera angles in order to give us that compressed feeling. Did all those ideas, like how long were you in pre-production? What was your process of kind of deciding what the look of the film would be?
They gave us some pretty good amount of time to think on it, and I think it was kind of, I think it was right after Christmas. I remember we hit the ground running like in the new year, and we're shooting it about 3 weeks into January. So it had like the new year momentum in pre-production, and I had two Yeah, the tilt shift was like a really perfect really perfect tool for the subject matter, because you can make these things that aren't miniature. So much of it was wanting to blend this world, and I wanted to do a lot of shot for shot matching, even, you know, with her hunched over her work desk and her hunched over her art desk, and sort of visually blending these things, and even blending with the little characters and the, you know, full life-size people. And this was like a really perfect tool to shoot a lot of stuff and help blend these two worlds. There's even because we couldn't afford a drone that could carry this pretty hefty tilt shift lens, there's sort of a post effect little secret that can create that from a drone view if you don't have a big, you know, octocopter or whatever. And then we also had these probe lenses that were this long. It looks like a rifle or something. It's just this very, very long lens, and you put it just an inch away from the miniatures, and that's how we got those crazy close-ups where you're seeing like fibers of hairs and stuff. But guiding me through this were two great DPs. I had Christian Zuniga, who shot all the Washington stuff, and Bob Blankmeyer, who shot all the New York stuff, and they were able to really nicely communicate with each other and be like, hey, just so you know, we did this here, and like, so make sure to do this in New York. And
right,
yeah, they were really helpful to lean on too, because they knew it was my first time, and I was gonna be asking them a lot of questions.
right. So do you know what's next for you? What projects are you working on right now?
Yeah, I have something that's coming out, I think, in the fall. It's not doc, it's narrative, which is all I'll say for now. But yeah, pretty exciting and definitely interesting shooting in COVID era. Yeah, again, great experience, and I think it'll be cool when it comes out.
Yeah, congratulations. I mean, your style, I saw on your website that you write scripts, and it does make sense to me that your style, I mean, you have a good sense of narrative, and so I'm looking forward to seeing how you put your skills to a narrative piece.
Awesome. I appreciate that.
Thanks for spending a few minutes talking to me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Have a good evening.
All right, man. You too.
All right,
Thank you.
Yep.
Bye.